Let's drop the pretending for a moment. Attraction isn't always polite. It isn't always politically correct, and it definitely isn't always aligned with what people say out loud. There's a gap, a quiet, uncomfortable gap between what women claim they want and what actually makes their pulse shift when they're alone with their thoughts. Most men never look into that gap. They listen carefully to words, I want a nice guy, I don't like dominant men, I hate games, and then they behave exactly according to those statements, confused when the spark never ignites. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Attraction doesn't respond to logic. It responds to emotion, tension, polarity, instinct. And that instinct is older than social media, older than modern dating advice, older than the phrases people use to describe what they should want. This isn't about manipulation. It isn't about disrespect. It isn't about becoming someone fake or cruel. It's about understanding the psychological undercurrents that shape desire, the parts that aren't spoken, the parts that don't fit neatly into clean narratives. Most men lose before they even begin because they try to win on the surface. They compete with compliments. They compete with availability. They compete with effort. But attraction often moves in the opposite direction of effort. The more you try to prove yourself, the less compelling you become. There are things women quietly respond to, behaviors that activate something deeper than social approval. They won't always admit it, because saying it out loud sounds contradictory, but their reactions tell a different story. The first one is simple and powerful. She wants you to take control, confidently, not aggressively. There's a massive difference between force and certainty. Force feels insecure. Certainty feels grounding. Even the most independent, ambitious woman spends her entire day making decisions, managing details, solving problems, navigating conversations, calculating outcomes. When she's with you, she doesn't want another negotiation. She wants relief. She wants to step into a moment where someone else already knows what they're doing. When you say, "I'll handle it," without arrogance, when you choose the place, make the plan, lead the movement, without asking for 10 rounds of approval, something subtle shifts. Her body relaxes because decisive energy signals safety. It signals structure. It signals that she doesn't have to carry everything alone in that moment. This doesn't mean controlling her choices. It doesn't mean overriding her voice. It means you are so internally steady that she feels comfortable syncing with your direction. Indecision kills momentum. When you constantly ask, "What do you want to do? Where should we go? Are you okay with this?" over and over, it may look polite, but emotionally, it transfers responsibility back onto her, and responsibility is heavy. Leadership, when it's calm and grounded, feels like being held psychologically. It says, "You can relax. I've got this." That relaxation is intoxicating, not because she wants to be submissive in life, but because surrendering occasionally to confident direction feels freeing. The mistake most men make is confusing dominance with loudness. Real dominance is quiet. It's the tone that doesn't shake, the posture that doesn't seek validation, the decision that doesn't require applause. When you operate from that space, you don't chase approval, and that's when attraction begins to shift from curiosity to instinct. The second truth is even more misunderstood. She wants you to tease her, playfully, intelligently, with warmth. Most men live on two extremes, too agreeable or emotionally unavailable. The middle ground is where chemistry lives. Playful teasing creates tension, and tension creates emotional spikes. Those spikes are what make conversations replay in her mind long after they end. Compliments are predictable. Playful challenges are memorable. When you tease her gently, when you lightly challenge her story, exaggerate her habits in a charming way, smirk instead of overreact, you're communicating confidence. You're saying without saying it, "I'm not intimidated by you," and that's powerful. Teasing works because it breaks pattern. It interrupts the flat, safe rhythm most interactions follow. It creates unpredictability without hostility. But the key is warmth. There is a line between playful and cruel, between clever and cutting. Playful teasing says, "I see you, and I'm comfortable enough to have fun with you." Cruel teasing says, "I want to lower you." She can feel the difference instantly. The goal isn't to embarrass her, it's to create a micro battle of wit that makes her feel alive. When she feels something, amusement, mock offense, playful annoyance, she's engaged. When she feels nothing, she detaches. Attraction feeds on emotional variation. The third truth cuts even deeper. She wants you to chase you, even if she'll never admit it. When everything is handed to her without effort, desire fades. Humans value what they invest in. Effort creates emotional attachment. Uncertainty increases mental engagement. When you're always available, always responding instantly, always rearranging your life around her, you remove the challenge, and challenge fuels attraction. This doesn't mean ignoring her. It doesn't mean acting cold. It means you have a life that genuinely matters to you. When your time is divided between purpose, goals, friendships, growth, your attention becomes scarce naturally, and scarcity increases value. If she knows you're always waiting, there's no tension. If she senses she has to earn your deeper attention, she invests emotionally. The more she invests, the more she feels, and feeling creates attachment. The paradox is this: the less you revolve around her, the more she wants to revolve towards you, because you've shown her that your world is stable without her, and she wants access to that stability. When you stop trying to secure her interest and instead focus on building something meaningful in your own life, you become harder to lock down and harder to forget. And we're only getting started.
Now let's go deeper, past behavior, past flirting, past surface level attraction, into the psychological core most men never examine. Because what truly intensifies attraction isn't just what you do, it's what you don't reveal. Mystery is oxygen for desire. The more predictable you are, the less stimulating you become. When she can map out your reactions, your schedule, your emotions, your responses, the tension evaporates. And tension is the fuel. This doesn't mean playing games. It means resisting the urge to over-explain yourself. Most men sabotage attraction by over-disclosing too early. They share every trauma, every insecurity, every long-term dream, every plan for the next 5 years. They try to prove depth immediately. But depth revealed too quickly feels like pressure. Think about it psychologically. When someone unfolds slowly, layer by layer, your mind becomes curious. You start filling in blanks. You start wondering. You replay conversations, searching for clues. Curiosity creates attachment. But when everything is laid out neatly on the first few dates, there's nothing left to discover. No emotional treasure hunt. No unfolding narrative. Women are emotionally intelligent. They read subtext. They sense shifts in tone. They analyze energy changes. When you keep a composed emotional baseline, when you aren't constantly reacting, oversharing, or seeking reassurance, you create space for her imagination. And imagination is more powerful than reality. The next uncomfortable truth: she wants to feel your standards, not your need. There's a massive difference. When a man operates from need, he tolerates everything. He overlooks disrespect. He ignores mixed signals. He stays available regardless of her behavior. That doesn't feel romantic. It feels desperate. But when you have quiet standards, when you walk away from inconsistency, when you calmly express boundaries, when you don't reward flaky behavior, something shifts. You become scarce, and scarcity commands attention. A woman may test your boundaries, sometimes unconsciously. It's not always malicious. It's often instinctual. She wants to know, are you solid? Will you bend under emotional pressure? Will you abandon your values to keep her? If the answer is yes, the attraction slowly erodes. Strength isn't loud arguments. It's calm firmness. It's saying, "That doesn't work for me," without anger. It's pulling back when effort isn't reciprocated, not dramatically, but naturally. When she feels that you could walk away and genuinely be okay, she experiences a subtle urgency. Because now, she's not just choosing you, she could lose you. And fear of loss intensifies desire far more than guaranteed access. Another truth most men avoid: emotional control is magnetic. If your mood rises and falls based on her texts, if your day collapses when she delays a response, if you react immediately to perceived rejection, you place your emotional stability in her hands, and that's heavy. Attraction thrives when you are emotionally self-contained. She can sense when you are centered, when you don't panic, when you don't overreact, when you don't chase reassurance. This doesn't mean being cold or robotic. It means you experience feelings without being ruled by them. There's something grounding about a man whose emotional state isn't fragile. When tension arises and you remain composed, when disagreements happen and you stay measured, when she's upset and you don't escalate, you create safety. And safety allows desire to deepen. But here's where it gets even more powerful. She wants polarity. Modern relationships blur this concept, but attraction often depends on contrast. If she's expressive, emotional, energetic, and you mirror that intensity constantly, there's no balance. But if she's expressive and you're grounded, if she's chaotic and you're structured, if she's uncertain and you're decisive, you create complement. Polarity isn't about dominance or submission in a toxic way. It's about energy contrast. Soft meets steady, expressive meets contained, emotional meets composed. Opposites, when healthy, create tension that spark chemistry. When both energies are identical, the spark often fades into familiarity, and familiarity without tension becomes comfort. Comfort without tension becomes boredom. One more truth, and this one hits hard. She wants to feel that being with you is a privilege, not because you're arrogant, not because you treat her as lesser, but because you treat your own time as valuable. If you instantly prioritize her over your goals, your gym session, your business, your growth, she subconsciously learns your priorities can be rearranged easily. But when you say calmly, "I can see you after I finish this," you send a message. Your life has structure. Your purpose doesn't disappear for attention, and purpose is intoxicating. A man driven by something bigger than validation carries a different aura. He isn't dating for survival. He isn't texting to feel worthy. He isn't pursuing just to fill emptiness. He's already full, and that fullness creates gravity. When she senses that you enjoy her presence but don't require it to function, that you desire her but aren't dependent, that you choose her but don't cling, the dynamic changes. Now, attraction isn't about convincing, it's about alignment. The moment she realizes you're not chasing her approval, she begins investing for it. Because humans protect what feels rare, and what feels rare is often what feels powerful.
Now let's uncover the final layers, the deep psychological triggers that turn attraction into devotion. Because desire isn't just about excitement, it's about emotional architecture. It's about creating a framework where she wants to give, to chase, to invest, without realizing she's doing it. One of the darkest truths in female psychology: women are drawn to men who can balance intensity with stability. They crave emotional highs, but they also need a foundation. Think about it. A man who can ignite her curiosity, tease her playfully, and hold boundaries, but also remain calm, grounded, and predictable in his core self. That man becomes magnetic. It's not magic, it's chemistry engineered through psychology. Let's break down how this works. First, emotional ownership without control. Women want to surrender emotionally, but only to someone worthy of that trust. You don't dominate her physically or emotionally. You don't manipulate or pressure. Instead, through consistent confidence,
leadership, and presence, you make her feel claimed. She knows where she stands. She knows you value her, and that sense of security releases primal attraction. Second, controlled scarcity fuels desire. Availability lowers value. Measured presence raises it. When you don't respond immediately, when you have a life full of purpose, she starts investing in your attention emotionally. This isn't about playing games. It's about genuine life fulfillment. The more she works to earn your attention, the deeper her attachment grows. Third, contrast triggers fascination. She wants you to embody layers, strength and gentleness, danger and restraint, intensity and calm. A man who is all one-dimensional quickly becomes predictable, but a man who shows depth, who balances light and dark, who contains multitudes, creates intrigue. That intrigue becomes obsession. She notices subtleties, the way you move, the way you speak, the quiet confidence behind your actions. That layered presence is hypnotic. Fourth, boundaries amplify respect. Saying no is one of the most powerful tools in attraction psychology. Women are subconsciously wired to respect men who are not desperate for approval. Boundaries signal self-respect, strength, and independence. The man who doesn't bend under pressure commands respect, which in turn cultivates desire. Fifth, the thrill of pursuit intensifies attachment. Human brains are wired to assign higher value to what is earned. When a woman has to chase emotionally to earn your attention, your respect, your time, she invests herself in a way she won't for someone who hands it over easily. Emotional scarcity, coupled with consistent value, creates a magnetic push and pull. Sixth, emotional mastery transforms connection into loyalty. If you remain calm, collected, and grounded, even in conflict or uncertainty, she senses stability. She experiences security, and security, paradoxically, enhances emotional intensity. She doesn't just want you in the moment, she wants your presence long term. She begins to depend on your steadiness as much as she desires your intensity. Finally, the ultimate principle. Attraction is the byproduct of authenticity. All the teasing, all the boundary setting, all the strategic presence, it only works if it's genuine. Women are innately sensitive to authenticity. A man who embodies his values, who lives a purposeful life, who balances strength and vulnerability, he becomes irresistible. When you integrate these principles, something extraordinary happens. Attraction becomes automatic. Interest grows without you chasing. Desire intensifies without manipulation. She invests emotionally because your presence is valuable, your boundaries are respected, and your depth is irresistible. This is the psychology few men understand, the dark truths of female desire that drive attachment, devotion, and long-term fascination. Master these principles, not to control or coerce, but to become the kind of man women subconsciously crave: confident, grounded, emotionally strong, unpredictable yet safe, scarce yet present, intense yet stable. When you do this, attraction doesn't need persuasion. It doesn't need loud competition. It flows naturally. And the women who encounter a man like this, they don't just like him. They feel him. They want him. And even if they never admit it, they can't resist him. This is the final secret. Attraction isn't something you create by chasing. It's something you cultivate within yourself through confidence, purpose, emotional mastery, and authentic presence. Once you understand and embody this, you stop trying to earn attention. Instead, attention comes to you. Desire becomes instinctual. Devotion becomes inevitable. And that is the rare magnetic power of understanding the hidden psychology of female desire.